Hi, my name is Karen Garvin, and I'm one of the authors of the book Just Ordinary Moms, and here with me is Maureen Wolf and Jean Laban. Say hello.
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 And we'd like to thank Granby Community TV and Mark for hosting us tonight in this third segment in the series. And the first was the journey, our journey from when we started writing the book years ago, kind of to present. And that was hosted by Bonnie Quinlan, Celia Lofink, and Robin Knoyer. The second segment was about the writing process, and that was hosted by Lael Jacobs and Linda Spevacek. And this third segment is, since they were so comprehensive, there wasn't much left for us to do. So we polled all the authors, and we have kind of come up with the 10 lessons we've learned through this writing process. So in late night TV fashion, we have come up with the 10 lessons learned from the literary journey.
So number 10 on our list of top 10 lessons we've learned is that working with a group of 8 women is harder than herding cats.
That's true.
So on the surface, we're all women who have raised our children in the Farmington Valley at roughly the same period of time. But of course, we're 8 women with very different personalities and varied professional experiences that have taken us to this point. So from a personality perspective, there are those in the group that really like public speaking and like being in the limelight. And then there are those who prefer to be behind the scenes, no names mentioned. There are some that are more detail-oriented, and there are others who really operate at a higher level, like don't really care about the details. And then there are some in our group that really like process and procedures and structure, and others who are comfortable without those things. Professionally, collectively among us, we have an actuary, we have 2 executive coaches, we have a paralegal, a caterer, somebody who does sales training, a nurse consultant, some former school teachers, and people who are active in local politics. So as we shifted from being a writing circle that had a large kind of social aspect to it, we into sort of forming and then running a business, we've had to figure out how to deal with these differences among us and tap into the various experiences and personalities that we're dealing with in order to run the business effectively. So for example, we had to figure out what legal structure that we needed for the business.
To protect us from ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. We needed somebody to do bookkeeping. We needed operating procedures, right?
That stay in effect longer than the next monthly meeting.
That's ideally.
Yes.
Ideally. We need agendas for our meetings.
That we hardly follow.
Yeah.
Right.
We have a hard time following, I should say.
Yes, and then we realized that we need to take minutes so we can remember what we've committed to, right?
Which nobody wants to do.
No.
Or read.
Yeah.
So we really have been learning by trial and error how best to utilize our skills and gifts, among us. And candidly, it does create tension at times between us as people sort of see things differently or approach things differently, but we have been good at kind of working through those and figuring out how to run the business effectively. All right, so that kind of leads as a segue to our next lesson.
And number 9 on our top 10 list of lessons learned, laughter, food, and wine are essential ingredients for a successful book launch.
Absolutely.
We try very hard to make the time to come together on a regular basis, and a gathering of the moms just wouldn't be the same without an assortment of tasty nibbles and wine. There's always has to be wine. We even had our book launch party at a local vineyard where we provided wonderful appetizers for our guests, of course. We have some amazing cooks and bakers among us. I love to bake, and I fall into the Paula Deen school of butter, more butter, and sugar equal love category. And opposed to me, thank goodness, we have Lael, our healthy yet amazingly delicious cook and baker, who one time actually snuck pureed black beans into these amazingly decadent, rich chocolatey brownies, and I swear my head nearly exploded because I realized I could eat these for breakfast because they're filled with protein and fiber. One of the things that all of us moms have in common is that we absolutely love to laugh. One of my favorite gatherings with the group was the night we received our book proof. We were so excited, and the energy was amazing. And one of the moms, a corporate guru, had us do some team building exercises. She started us off by telling each one of us that we were a certain color.
I was teal, by the way, just so you know.
That's my favorite color. I think I ended up pink. No, navy. I'm navy.
And I thought I was red, but that went to somebody else. And then she followed that up by which type or breed of dog she thought we were. And I was like, dog, as in female dog? Is she serious? Hello?
Do I really look like a dachshund?
No, you were very upset with that.
I was rather insulted, although I am a little short-legged and long torso, so maybe she wasn't too far
Embrace your
wrong.
inner dog, I guess, is the lesson for all of us.
I guess.
But we all think that you look like an absolute elegant golden retriever with your Linda Evans Dynasty era hair.
Thank you.
The cover of our book features an apple pie, of course, and a pink concoction in a martini glass with a pacifier garnish. A play on fun-loving women who also happen to be moms. Now, we don't advocate dipping a Binky into alcohol, unless, of course, it's your Binky. Your secret is safe with us. We swear we'll never tell. And I guess the bottom line is that we went from a social writing group to a business run by women who also happen to be friends. And it isn't easy at times. But we really try to remember to kick off our shoes, sip a glass of wine, or enjoy a steaming cup of tea, nibble on a few goodies, hug each other, laugh, cry with each other, really nourish our tummies and our souls by celebrating a friendship. And that's key, I think, to what has brought about our success.
Absolutely.
I
Well
agree.
said.
I
Well
agree.
said.
I was saying that to Jean a little earlier, that I thought, even though we have our differences, we're in a safe place with each other, and we can tell each other things, and it works out well.
It's very nice.
Yep. So
That brings us
I
to-
guess the next, our number 8 on the top 10 lessons learned is getting a book published isn't for the faint of heart. And this probably comes in when you start writing. You write a story, you think you're done, then you read it to somebody, and they say, oh no, you got to do this, you got to do that. So there's draft number 1, draft number 2, draft number 10. Then there's editing, tweaking, re-editing, blah, blah, blah. It gets to the point where you're like, whose story is this anyways?
Yes, exactly.
You lose sight of, you have no control over it anymore. So
I lost the man that I wrote about in one of my
Yes, you
stories.
did.
They completely changed him.
So you kind of have to have a thick skin
Yes.
where that comes in. And talking about the publishing, some of the women didn't think they really wanted to publish up front. It's like,
true.
let's just read to book clubs and events.
I was one of those, by the way.
Yes,
I went in that camp.
and some of us were like, you know what, we've been doing this for so long, we either have to do this or we have to stop doing it.
But we got a message.
Yes, we did.
And not a message from above, but literally from the sea. One of our authors was at the Cape with their family, hanging out on the beach, a whole bunch of them, and this message in a bottle washed up literally at her feet. The story about that is in our book. It just was really sort of, if you ever look for a sign, short of that bottle picking itself out of the water and cracking the author on the head.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
our message, and it's a very heartwarming and very emotional story, but that was sort of like stop with the being afraid. Let's go do it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So that brings us to number 7 on our list of top 10 lessons learned, which is write with your heart and not with your fingertips. So many of us were new to the writing process when we joined the writing circle. We all had stories to tell, but we really didn't necessarily know the craft of writing. So it took some
I
practice.
still don't.
Well, it's a forever
It's
kind
a
of
forever
thing.
learning thing, yes.
But it took a while for us, if you'll recall, to get beyond just kind of just writing down what happened in sequence, like an accounting of the facts, to really kind of searching within ourselves and finding a voice that allowed us to really connect effectively with the listener or the reader. There's actually a quote in our book which I wanted to share with you, which really captures this concept very well. And the quote is, "There's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed." And you'll be surprised to know that that was actually expressed by Ernest Hemingway, who seemed to bleed quite well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's blood.
No, but it reminds me, I had a creative writing teacher in high school who used to say, you need to slit your wrists and spill the blood, which, is a pretty ugly metaphor, but I do think it captures well what powerful writing requires. At one level, when we say writing from your heart, we mean that figuratively, of course, but there actually is sort of a biological aspect to this, because there are studies that show that people, their hearts actually synchronize, their beats synchronize with that of their loved ones or people that they're close with. So we've actually, I think, somewhat experienced this when we read our stories to a group of women. Just the effect that it has on them and the way that they open up and tell stories that maybe they haven't shared with people before helps us to realize that we, through our writing, are finding a way to connect with them at a very deep level. So as we've watched our writing skills blossom, we've really seen the benefit of this concept at work. Right?
And that brings us to how do we get our message out to women that are just not in our local book clubs, but out into the greater world, I guess. And so number 6 on our top 10 lessons that we learned is tweeting isn't just for birds. Many women in our age group were delighted to discover Facebook several years ago as a way to keep tabs on our kids, honestly, and then as a way to reconnect with high school, college, professional friends. And it was a nice venue to see what was going on. At times, when we were on Facebook, we sort of vacillated between sending a private message to our children asking, what the heck are you wearing? When first pictures of their freshman year of college in their Halloween costumes appeared on our monitors, or choosing not to say anything because we didn't want them to know we were stalking them, God forbid. So we've learned a lot in our few short years. We've learned social media can be used negatively or thankfully, as we've discovered, as a way to connect with our audience. Fans, fellow authors, the media, and moms, especially moms. Women in our age group represent the fastest growing demographic on social media, including Facebook especially, Pinterest, Instagram, and a few others like blogging sites. We have found so many mommy blogging sites, like in the hundreds of thousands. It would boggle the mind. We have stay-at-home moms, cooking moms, angry moms, crafty moms, clueless moms. They run the gamut. It's pretty funny.
Ordinary moms.
And then us, just ordinary moms. But anyway, you get the point. Women are social by nature. And in this new world of social media, it's providing us with the chance to connect with everyone. Not only moms, but women, sisters, daughters, and men. We have quite a few men followers, which is totally delightful to me.
Vineyards and restaurants?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say.
And it's a necessity in this day and age.
Well, it is. We have too many women, and this is sort of a tragedy, I think, in a way. They're really afraid of social media. They're afraid of putting themselves out there, or somebody's going to find out something about them. You can be as private as you absolutely want to be. You don't even have to put your real picture out there if you don't want to. But I think it's important for us, as we are gracefully aging, that we keep up with current technology. And I kind of embrace the whole social media aspect of Just Ordinary Moms. I post pictures on all kinds of sites, things that we're doing, things that we're up to. I get followers. I'm trying to find people. I follow people.
We're standing right behind you, Maureen.
I tweet just about every day. Something we're up to, or a literary quote, or something fascinating, or we've had a lot of angels along the way who have helped us. So if they have causes, I like to sort of retweet or put on Facebook something that they're doing. So
Instagram isn't Polaroid, fast.
No, honey, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you on there. You could put your Polaroids on Instagram. That's called Throwback Thursday. #TBT. So I'll tell you all about that one.
Karen, aren't you still using a typewriter at work?
Yeah.
An electric typewriter,
Electric,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Oh,
really
yeah,
moved
it's
into
got
the,
electric.
I have a
Typewriter.
computer too, but I do have a typewriter.
Well, one evening I was out with these two ladies. We were meeting actually to discuss coming on this show, and we were sitting there and we had ordered a lovely bottle of wine. And because now I have this marketing in my head, I said, pose with the bottle. And I put the picture out there, and wouldn't you know, this California Vineyard liked our picture, started following us, and want to use it on another social media site, use their picture. So those are kind of the things. I am an educator by my background. I am not a marketing person, but this has been a really fun journey for me to discuss all the aspects of social media and promoting us.
Cool.
And number 5 on the top 10 lessons learned is, if you're going to write stories about your kids, don't tell them in advance. Yeah, next thing you know, they'll be writing Just Ordinary Kids, A Revenge.
I think they're still writing that one.
Yeah. Initially, some of our children were a little bit upset that we wrote stories about them that perhaps were less than stellar behavior, because they thought they were good kids. And they were good kids.
They
They're
are
still
good
good
kids.
kids. They're great
Absolutely.
kids. But you know, when they did this one particular thing, you know, they forgot about it the next day, and we're still thinking about it years down the road. And by writing, it helped to alleviate some of those, you know, fears and all trials that you have about the trials and tribulations of motherhood.
It's true.
So, and by writing, it's given us a vehicle to voice our concerns and fears and frustrations, and we've been able to close that chapter and move on. And hopefully we've helped other moms realize that they're not alone, that all kids are going to do one thing or another. And I like to use one of the quotes from the book. All our kids are going to do one thing or another. I guess it was just my kid's turn to embarrass her mother. So
Isn't that what it's really all about?
That's what it's all about, yes. It's like when they're going to do it. But we've tried to protect their privacy as well as our own. We've changed their hair color, location, sexes, names, whatever, to protect, you know, the innocent or the not so innocent, as the case may be.
People do seem to want to ask us which kid is which in the story, and
Yes.
we'll never tell, but you know, guess away, because you won't guess either.
Because we've tricked y'all.
Yes.
And by doing that, we maintain that our stories are universal.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, so number 4 on our list of top 10 lessons learned along the literary journey is don't quit your day job after your book gets published.
so no boat for my husband anytime soon,
Not
huh?
soon. But when our book came out in April, I seem to recall certain husbands asking right away, let me know when I can retire, right?
They were.
So we haven't really thought about it this way, but I think if we were to calculate how much money we've made, like hourly, for the effort that we've put into this labor of love over the last several years, I think we'd be lucky if we netted $1 an hour, and then we have to split that 8 ways, of course. So, in fact, when we sell our book at, at craft fairs or bazaars, we'll often start walking around looking at the other tables to see what's out there, and I find myself like buying things, and so I actually have a net loss every time I go to one of these events, even if we're making any money on the book. So, I guess the message here is you really have to do this for more than just the money.
Absolutely.
And for us, the joy and satisfaction that we're getting out of helping others really is what motivates us. And I think it comes in 2 forms. First of all, we, as we've mentioned several times, this whole idea of giving a voice to other moms and creating a venue when we read our stories for people to share experiences they've had that maybe they haven't talked about in the past. And realizing how cathartic that is very rewarding for us.
Absolutely.
And makes us feel really good about what we're doing.
Right.
And
And
then,
they do start talking.
Yeah.
You know, they start telling you about something their kids did, and maybe
Oh, it's
they've never
amazing.
mentioned it before.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's how we knew that we were onto something here too, because too many of us have sat on the sidelines of a game or something and heard how wonderful some child was doing, and sometimes you feel like, what's wrong with my kid? But this sort of gave us all permission to say, you know, stand on the sidelines, but we're all intimate, telling each other the truth, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty good place for us to be.
yeah, I remember, and this is before the book was published, again, like in the fall, when we were, we'd been kind of at this for a while and still weren't sure where we were going with it, that Lael and I were at a book club meeting, and there were maybe 15 women there, and we read a variety of stories. And it wasn't so much that people were revealing things to us, but they started talking among themselves. There was this buzz in the room. So you get kind of like the nodding heads as you're reading.
Right.
But then when it's over, it's just amazing the stuff that comes out. And it was just, I mean, we were just so pumped up that night. And that was the night where someone said to us, this is fabulous. Like, you know, because we really liked the idea of going and reading to the book clubs. But they said, you really should turn this into a book so we can curl up like in our beds and read this among ourselves. And we brought that back to the group, and it became kind of another one of those pushes that we needed to get the book in progress. So, so I guess the other way that I wanted to mention that we feel like we're giving through this process is through the charities that we support. So we do donate to charities that support women and children, and that's another very visible and financial sign of a way that we can give back.
Absolutely.
So, so we haven't quit our day jobs, but we certainly are enjoying the time that we've put into this particular venture.
Which we really would like to do.
Absolutely. And still might happen, but maybe not in 2013.
And that brings us to number 3 on our top 10 list of lessons learned. Self-publishing is not a dirty word. Initially, we were reluctant to tell people that we self-published or our hybrid self-publishing effort because we do market under a publishing house, because we were afraid people would look down their noses at us and at our product and maybe lump it into the same category as the oh so wonderful PTO cookbooks that help raise money for our kids' schools, or Grandpa's memoirs that he wrote and published for the grandchildren, and those are absolutely wonderful things in and of themselves, but we knew we were something a little bit different. We know our book resides in a different category than that, and we were encouraged to discover some of our very favorite authors' first books were self-published. So I don't know if anyone realizes that John Grisham's The Time to Kill was first self-published. Stephen King. I think it comes as no surprise that Shakespeare was also self-published. But look at where he is now.
Do they have paper back then? They didn't have printers. There's no printing press.
They did have printers, but you had to be like really wealthy to own one or get it done. Walt Whitman and Connecticut's very own Mark Twain was also self-published.
Oh, we're in good company.
So we've learned that, we are in good company. We've learned that there are over 235,000 people who have self-published, and they're tossing
That
their...
was a long time ago. Mark Twain, wasn't it? There was such a thing as self-publishing?
Yes.
I thought it was a new
Mainly
thing.
it was Bibles, but...
Clearly, none of us was history. We were history.
No, I definitely was not.
Well, when we
Or
make it
geography.
big, they can go back to school. Anyway, but anyway, there are current best-selling authors who are now benefiting from being self-published authors because they have creative control on the content of their book, the covers of their book, and their time. They are not on the road for a third of the year promoting their book. They can do it as they see fit. And I think you'd be surprised, I'm not going to say their names, but you'd be surprised at some of the books that you pick up at the store. You're going after the author's name and the author's reputation, but I think if you look at the spine of the book, you'd be curious to discover which publishing house that they're going with. A lot of them are being self-published now. But anyway, this phenomenon has helped us as well. Once small bookstores were really hesitant to stock self-published books, first of all, because it was sort of a highbrow thing, but second of all, a lot of people who self-publish go through big places like Amazon, and they cut into sales and other giant bookstores, and they're small mom and pop shops, and they want to sort of retain integrity. But we have been really lucky that some of them are embracing this trend. And we have our books in bookstores on Cape Cod, Rhode Island, coastal North Carolina,
Granby.
Yeah, Simsbury,
Connecticut, down the
Avon.
shore in Connecticut. Yeah, and then gift stores and toy stores. We have been really, really lucky. And I think it's in some ways might be a good thing for these shop owners because they can make a profit on the book. It's not a major publishing house telling them what they're going to get, which is kind of next to nothing. So anyway, so we feel proud to be part of a new trend, as you know.
Yes, we do.
And we know that things will continue with this technology. It's just getting easier and easier to do this stuff, even on your own home computers, which we don't do. But
So I don't know if you wanted to talk about this, but I think one of the benefits we had from being self-published is that we had creative license over our cover.
yes, oh yeah,
Right. Because if we gave it to a publisher, they would actually pick the cover. I think sometimes maybe authors have some say in it, but we wouldn't have total control over it.
And I think they basically rewrite your stories.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we ran a design contest. One of our authors had found a site that did graphic design and had artists, and we sort of put our bid out as a project, and the winning bid got a certain amount of money that we agreed upon, and we were delighted with the thing.
yeah.
We went from and that again, trying to get 8 women to come to a conclusion about what best represented us, but we had covers with jewels on them and necklaces and a clothesline
Clotheslines,
with things hanging off.
White picket fence. no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
Or some of those.
And how we evolved into this amazing, vibrant cover that we do have. And our artist, we literally told her we wanted everything about moms baked into a pie, because pie represented mom and pie.
Motherhood and apple pie.
And although we don't have baseball in there, but we have soccer ball in there. And so our artist, Zanita, I believe her name is, she just ran with these ideas. And so we thought our cover represents mom in every way possible. It is the quintessential mom and apple pie a la mode. Everything on the pie, toys, sports, cell phone, to keep us connected to work and family, an adult beverage, large oven mitt, so there's no color of anyone's skin. This mom is every mom. And of course a little jewelry bling, because underneath the labels and stereotypes, we are women and we want to look and feel good. So
Great.
that brings us to...
Did we mention that I think they've mentioned it on some of the other segments, but that the artist was from Bosnia?
No, we didn't say that.
So, and it was ironic that she could come up with something that we so liked, because she's a young
25-year-old
she's young,
single
not
woman,
married,
right?
no children.
Right.
We wanted
She
that.
got us, right?
She did get us, and we wanted her to come to our one of our book premieres, and she said she'd love to,
But she lived in Bosnia.
Yeah.
and she's always wanted to come to America. So I think another thing, once hopefully when this does go big time, we'll be able to get her, send her an airplane ticket, because we really want to give her a huge hug and welcome us into, even though she's not mom
Absolutely.
herself yet, welcome her into our fold.
Right.
And the number 2 on the top 10 lessons learned is there is tremendous power in the sisterhood of motherhood. And for some of us who never ever imagined we'd have our stories published, it was the encouragement in the group that gave us the confidence we needed to put pen to paper and come up with a story. And then sharing these stories with other women at book clubs and similar events has convinced us that our efforts can be a great source of support to one another, that instead of wanting to crawl under the rug and hide till it blows over, we don't feel so alone, because we know somebody else has gone through the same thing.
Right.
It creates this connective bond between us and among us. So.
Yeah, and I think with regard to that, one of the themes in the book is that sometimes there's competition between women to kind of come across as the best mom, and how unfortunate that is,
Very
because
unfortunate.
it just obfuscates this ability to actually have the support network,
Right.
the
Right.
sisterhood
Right.
of motherhood.
Because we compare ourselves to in everything,
Yeah.
but especially when it comes to our children. I mean, those mama tiger claws can come out if somebody dares to hurt or say something about your child. But you can also be, it starts when they're little. Well, so and so's kid is crawling, and my kid's still laying there looking at the mobile. Kind of wondering what's going on, and it's really unfortunate, because they're a lot of fun if we step back and look at it instead of comparing them.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So that brings us to the top thing that we've learned during our literary journey, being women of a certain age, which is don't have a hot flash while being interviewed on TV. You have something to say about that, Karen?
Several things, like the camera puts on way more than just 10 pounds.
It's
we're really
a
much
lot
thinner.
more than 10 pounds,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
really much thinner and much younger than we look. What else? Well, we were on this show, and of course, you know, I don't like to go on TV shows, as you can probably tell. And so I'm in the middle of a hot flash, and I'm trying to inconspicuously, you know, and I'm just like wiping and using my arms, and unfortunately, I think my TV career has ended before it even started. So that was a big thing.
That was a nutty night. We were down in New Haven at WTNH, and I don't know what got into any of us, but we were having a really fun interview, but their ceiling was leaking. I was standing up getting mic'd, ironically, by a guy named Mike. We were all sort of like...
Mike's by a guy named Mike.
We were all, like, these guys were like running wires up our shirts. We're like, okay, this is different. And then this huge drip of water came down from the ceiling right on the front of my shirt. And so while you're waving yourself, I really want to get your book and start waving me too.
I know, to dry your shirt.
It wouldn't show up, but we're not experts at being on TV, so.
Right, and then, you know, some of the women that have been on the other segments, they're like, you really do have a good side and a bad side. And it was like, oh, God, I don't think I have any good sides.
No good side.
And then one of them said, you know, she just kept kind of agreeing with everything everybody said when she wasn't talking. And her husband says, what are you, a bobblehead? All you did was bob your head. I still don't think she's speaking to him over that. But,
No, seeing ourselves
so we've
on
been
television.
trying not to do any of those
This has
things.
been a very humbling experience, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Because when I know there's at least one woman who can't even listen to the replays of these things. But if you do, first you have the horror of hearing your own voice, which always sounds hideous, and then you look at the camera and you're like, who is that old lady? And you realize it's yourself.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Old fat lady.
But the good thing is even the professionals tell us that they never really
Yes.
get beyond that, right? So it's not just our...
We had one, and she's gorgeous. And
But they are really skinny.
well, there is that.
Yeah.
There is that. You're right.
Yeah.
She's just being nice to us.
She was.
Right.
She was.
That's right.
Really nice.
So I guess, that being said, this concludes our series about the journey of writing and publishing Just Ordinary Moms, true stories by moms for moms. We do hope that you have found these 3 segments to be informative and educational and maybe even a bit entertaining. And while you may not feel ready to actually write a whole book and have it published, chances are you have a story that you'd like to tell. And we are collecting stories now. We have a sequel to this book, which is called Just Ordinary Moms 2. And we've got other plans for the series. We're thinking about Just Ordinary Siblings, Just Ordinary Pets.
We're working on Just Ordinary military moms and wives. That has sort of created sort of a big group onto itself, and we're delighted to be working with those women. They are absolutely amazing women.
Yeah, so we have we've thought about Just Ordinary Siblings and Just Ordinary Dads, Just Ordinary Grandparents. So I think the sky's the limit, and we would certainly love to work with any of you who feel like you would like to get your thoughts on paper. We can take you through a process to do that. So I guess our message to anyone watching the show is everyone has a story, and we want to hear yours. And with that, we say thank you.
Thank you very much.
I feel a hot flash coming. Night.